Let's keep it going. The last thing that I want us to be able to do is I want us to be able to find slope or rate of change just by looking at a graph. And hopefully, if there's one thing you remember from this whole lesson, it's delta y over delta x. Change in y over change in x. Well, I can use a graph to do the exact same thing. Find that change in y and that change in x. So let's go ahead and take a look at a graph here. We're going to look at number 9. And the first thing I need to do on this graph is I need to find some perfect points. Well, there's a nice perfect point right there. And I say it's perfect because it goes right through a grid mark. And the very next time I find a perfect point is all the way down here, but that is a nice perfect point for us. It goes right through a grid mark. And in order to find the rate of change, to find the delta y over delta x, all I'm going to do is I'm going to count. I'm going to go from that point, like that. I'm going to go from one point to the next. Well, first I've got to do my delta y. So how much is this thing going up? It's going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units to up. 8 units up, and it's going 3 units to the right. So my delta y over delta x is just 8 over 3. So to recap, we're going to find some very neat and easy points to use, and then all we're going to do is figure out how much is y changing and how much is x changing by. All right, let's find a couple points on number 10. There's a nice one right there. And there is another nice one right there. There's a couple good points there. To get from that point I started on over to there, the first thing I've got to do is get down 3. I've got to go down by 3, and then I'm going to go to the right by 2. Therefore, my slope in this one is going to be -3 over 2. The biggest mistake you can make here is confusing the formula. Remember that we're going to start with delta y. That is, how much is this changing in the y direction, the output direction. So it's an up-down move first, followed by a left-right move. All right, so this is the last question for you in this homework. I want you to try to do this on your own. I want you to try to identify some points. I want you to try to count those points and figure out what our slope is. Go for it. All right, so this one's pretty interesting because there's actually lots of choices. We actually have a choice right here. That's a nice perfect point. And there's a nice perfect point. And there's a nice perfect point. So there's some multiple points that are actually going through a nice perfect spot. And you can choose any of them to do this part. Let's check that out. If I want to go from that first point I talked about from here over to there, I'm going to go up by 1, 2, 3, 4, and over by 3. So my slope's going to be 4 over 3. But what about if I chose those other points and did those? Well, notice, again, we're going to get 4 over 3. So my slope's the same no matter which 2 points I pick. But wait a minute. What if I pick, interesting, if I pick the starting point that I had and that ending point that I have, and I actually do that? Well, that's going to go up by 8, and it's going to go over by 6. So my slope's 8 over 6. Oh, no, it's not the same. Oh, wait, yes, it is. Because if I simplify the fraction 8 over 6, it's going to become 4 over 3. So no matter which 2 points I pick along this line, because it is linear, because it has the same slope all the way across it, no matter which 2 points I pick, it's going to have a constant rate of change, and I'm going to be able to find that rate of change. So my final answer there was 4 over 3. That was our rate of change. I'm going to ask you guys one last question here. I'm not going to ask it as a question. It's going to be a really quick recap. The take-home message, if you remember nothing else about this when you come to class on Monday, it is critical that you remember and understand that the way we find a rate of change, the way we find a slope, and those words mean the same thing, is we go delta y over delta x. Now, I know this is a little bit confusing because when we write a coordinate, we write the x first, x comma y. But when we find that rate of change, we're going to go delta y over delta x. That delta y is our change in y, and that delta x is our change in x. So our rate of change is always going to be change in y over change in x. Make sure you remember that. All right? And I hope you have a good weekend. Talk to you guys later.